likes me. Nobody likes me, but that's okay, because I don't like y'all anyway. Man, I don't like y'all anyway.
We need to pay attention to all this stuff, and don't muddy the waters. Don't let your mind get sidetracked, because you need to remember that when, it's going to be time to vote again soon. So it's going to be local elections, all this stuff, everything, all these elections. You have to remember that the Republicans would rather collude with Russians than collude with Americans.
Them Staten Island niggas still puffing them dust blunt.
Donald Trump is a white supremacist who enables white supremacists. No lie. I mean, that's accurate. It's an accurate assessment of the situation.
Them Staten Island niggas still puffing them dust blunt.
Dragnets. How do they work? Just say no. Yeah. Here's the problem with just saying no. You can go about your life trying not to do drugs, but you turn on the news and you see Wigmaster over there talking about public health emergencies. That's why drugs are hard to stop. Because of people like that. Big week. It's always a big week. Can't we please have an uneventful week? That's all I want. All I want is one.
Them Staten Island niggas still puffing them dust blunt.
Oh, Jay, why are you wearing that resist shirt? What are you resisting? Bunch of isms and trees. Bigotry, misogyny, racism, fascism, and sexism. The people here the people on the South Shore, in the rich neighborhoods, the richer neighborhoods, not the poor neighborhoods, are brought up on bigotry, hatred, and classification of, societal roles. Hey, yo. Who's in your house? Dyze in your house. What goes on, peeps? Welcome back into another edition of Dyze In Your House, coming to you live on East Coast Radio. Felt the need to give you this surprise episode, this midweek episode, because, I've been coming to you for about 2 months, 3 months with Dyze In Your House on East Coast Radio every Friday at or around 6 o'clock on YouTube and on the podcast app. And I just wanted to, I know I explained that there was a need for another 20 minutes or a half hour of my podcast. And I know I said that was the reason why I do it, and it is. But there are other reasons. And I just want to take I have some time off work, so I'm going to do a little short. This is a What is East Coast Radio episode. That's what this is. This is What is East Coast Radio. If you're wondering what I'm doing here, this should basically be what it is. Okay. A couple of years ago, I started the J Porks podcast with the help of my friend Andy Derr over at the Andy Derr Show. He also has a podcast out of Chicago. He said I should do a podcast. I started doing one, and I liked it. I like being able to get things off my chest because I get to talk about things I don't usually get to talk about in real life. Around 2012, 2013, 2014. Talk about music news. There's a lot of bands that I don't like. There's a lot of musicians that frustrate me. And I have a lot of funny jokes and funny bits about said musicians and said bands and making fun of songs and albums and stuff like that and festival lineups and and also, I had a lot of fun doing that because I also was doing the news cycle thing at Concert Confessions where when tour dates would drop, I would be all up in there posting, checking how many views I got and whatnot. I worked for Consequence of Sound or something. So with Concert Confessions and everything, I was taking my podcast and I was using it as a vehicle for music news and to give you, my concert experiences without writing that in depth about it, So I was able to write a shorter blurb, not a blurb, but not a novel. And I was able to talk about it, say things, with my voice that maybe didn't get communicated in my review, you know, when I, you know, used to write frequently for concertconfessions.com. Now I just, you know, go there when I have, you know, it's very rare that I have concert tickets these days. It's not my fault. I'm a grown-up now. So over time, there was some, you know, over time I realized that people were listening. And over time I realized that this is what I've always wanted to do. I've always wanted to be in front of a microphone. Always wanted to be in front of a microphone doing things. Whether it was radio DJ, you know, whether it was sports talk radio host Mike Francesa, whether it was Matt Pinfield or Mike Francesa, you know, I just didn't want to be Eddie Trunk. But I wanted to be, you know, a radio guy. And when I was a young kid, my dad brought news to me. He said, do you know that the DJs don't pick the songs? Once I found that out, I realized that that was no longer something I wanted to do. But when I was around the age of, like, I even say 13, 14, I used to listen to WFAN all the time. And I also used to listen to, when Jim Rome's show was on, was simulcast on ESPN. And I always used to hear commercials for the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. And I was like, that's it. Forget college. Forget anything. I'm going to go to the Connecticut School of Broadcasting, and I'm going to be a broadcaster. And that never happened. That never happened for a variety of reasons. Maybe, possibly because I was an irresponsible teenager. Maybe because in order to go to the Connecticut School of Broadcasting, you need to finish the Tottenville School of High School. I mean, maybe that's a thing you need to do. So I get it. You know, I can see, it's no one's fault that I got tripped up in my life besides my own. You know, my path was deterred. But I'm back here. So Andy gave me the opportunity, gave me the Jay Porks podcast. This is for you. This is for your voice. So I didn't. I was talking about music a lot. And stuff would happen. And I would get serious. So when serious things happen, I would get serious. When people get shot, I would talk about it. Then 2016 happened. And that's when the world went crazy. Literally. We had people in the street. We had people in real life. Not only on Facebook. Not only Russian bots on Facebook. You had people in real life telling me to my face that the two main presidential candidates were basically the same. Now, one is a career politician, former first lady, and the other is a reality TV star who's gets sued and bankrupt more times than I've had sex in my life, and pays off porn stars to not mention having sex with him more times than I've had sex in my life. You got those two, and America actually decided that they would go with serial pussy grabber. They would go with the molester-in-chief. They decided that that's what they would do. And that was, I'm sorry, that was it. That was the breaking point for me. Because I have a microphone, and I have a voice, and I cannot, under any circumstances, not use my platform to talk about what I think is right and just. But getting back to what is Least Coast Radio. Andy gave me a podcast. Now, I'm sure if the Dare Network wanted a Jay Porks podcast every day, I'm sure we can make that happen. But Andy's got a life, you know? And it took me 4 years to figure out how to get my own podcast online via RSS feeds, YouTube, podcast app, yada, yada, yada. It was so hard for me to do. So, you know, I appreciate everything he does, you know, that he continues to do on the long form Jay Porks podcast. So every week, usually Monday, we have about an hour, and I've been going an hour, about an hour of the Jay Porks podcast where we focus in on, you know, corruption going on in the government, like, you know, well, we talk about the top news. And the top news and the most important news going on in the country right now is the delegitimacy of the office of the presidency by means of dereliction of duties, plus being an agent for Russia, wittingly or unwittingly. So that's what we have. So I decided, you know what? I'm going to try to get my own network. Because, you know, in the future, when I move out of my house and I'm living with my girlfriend, and, you know, I'm going to have a lot of... She's got a good job, you know, which means, you know, she's going to work some hours. And I'm going to have a lot of time on my hands. So besides, like, starting a YouTube channel to unbox K-pop glitter bath bombs, I really wanted to focus on, like, I'll have politics podcast, have a sports podcast. And that's the thing, like, my friend... And first of all, if you're listening, let me spread love. It's the Brooklyn way. Go to Facebook and like Sports Ball, okay? My cousin Dan has a podcast called Sports Ball, and my friend Taylor's on it, and, you know, people I know, and, like, they're talking sports, they're taking calls. You should go check them out. That's something I would have done, but I don't watch the games enough anymore. Like, I love sports, but I watch my teams now. I used to have more of a broad focus on sports, where, like, everything that happened would be in my wheelhouse, when sports radio was my go-to. But I don't watch enough games anymore. My ESPN has been replaced with MSNBC now, and I don't want to go on the air and, you know, hey, how do you feel about, you know, Kansas basketball, their point guard? I'm going to be like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't want to do that. But you should go like it and listen to it, because I believe that that's going to be good. And, you know, maybe I'll hop on there someday. But, like, this as a guest. There's stuff, maybe I'll call in, plug my podcast. But, like, there are things I wanted to do, like, you know, I want to have different podcasts. So I've tried to look into starting my own podcast. Like, my own separate podcast, because I don't want to say, yo, Andy, thanks, take it easy. I don't want to do that. And plus, if you want me to be honest with you, I send Andy the audio files, and like, he does the rest. So it's pretty easy for me. So, I appreciate everything he does, and, like, I don't want to have to add that to my workload. So it's good that for the J Parks podcast, I can just record. Boom. That's it. This podcast, Least Coast Radio, Dyze In Your House. I'm over here. I got background music that I have to scream over. I have to transfer the files over to, I'm turning into a movie with pictures and stuff. And then it comes to, okay, I have to download some pictures that are gonna link up to the times which I'm talking about them in the pod for when this goes on YouTube, because there's a YouTube playlist for this, because that's how I get it on iTunes, the whole thing. So a whole bunch of things I don't know how to do, I found out how to do. And then I was at a page asked me for a title, and I hadn't even given it much thought. So there was one, I can't remember what it is now. There was one I wanted that I was surprised was taken. But I chose Least Coast Radio as the network name. Because think about first of all, because at ConcertConfessions.com, I always refer to myself as the contributor from the Least Coast, because Concert Confessions headquarters is in California. Well, it was in California. Now, I guess it's here now because I pay for it. But it was in California. So when I would contribute, you know, I would always mention, you know, Least Coast, you know. Because California's got sunny weather. They've got beaches. They've got more access to recreational and easier access to medical marijuana. They've got people microdosing in San Fernando Valley or whatever. It's Silicon Valley, excuse me. They got microdosing. They got tech. They got Seattle. You know? They got Mexico. West Coast is where it's at. They got Vegas. They got even Colorado's really West Coast. Not really West Coast, but got Washington, Seattle. You got Oregon, California. West Coast, best coast. I mean, I know they're pretentious, and I know that I made fun of people from California 5 years ago when writers from Antiquiet were talking about how Portugal the Man is the greatest thing ever, and I said, oh, you just need to pick bands with weird periods in their name and weird bands that no one's ever heard of. You need to shut. I'm sorry. They were right. Portugal the Man is awesome. Okay? But, like, you know, they're pretentious about a lot of things. But you know what? When you're the best, it's like, I'm a Yankee fan, right? People hate talking to me about baseball. You know why? Because the Yankees are the franchise, you know? The Yankees are the best in the business right now. And that's what's going on the West Coast. Whatever's going on over there, laws, politics, they're moving forward. And over here on the East Coast, the least coast, we're moving back. I know New York's a blue state. Staten Island is not. Staten Island is not a blue borough. It is red. And the way in which people behave out here, I mean, I can't describe it other than, you know, we're so pretentious out here that we feel like no one else matters besides us. And, like, there's a lot, I mean, I see a lot more hatred here than I interpret from coming from the West Coast, best coast. So, East Coast, least coast. Least Coast Radio. Fine. That's a cool name. Now, what's going to be the name of the podcast? The inaugural podcast. Now, for those who don't know, in 2013, on 2012 and 13, I subtracted 115 pounds of fat from my body by way of dieting, walking, watching calories, replacing meals with coffee, and a lot had to do with the Orion Music and More Festival in 2012, the one Metallica hosted, because that was a big field. I did a lot of walking that weekend. I lost like 15 pounds that weekend. So, like, it was when I came back from that I saw how fast that weight could be lost, that I lost all this weight. So then we start to think about, okay, how long is the Jay Parks name going to make sense? You know? How long is it going to be a thing that's viable to me? Then I started thinking about what other names could I come up with off Parks. And nothing really came to me. But I'm not going to go change all my social media handles. I like Jay Parks. And I'm not like, you know, I'm not like an Ethiopian kid with flies stuck to his face. I'm still like, you know, still Porky, to say the least. So, I mean, the Jay Parks still applies, but... So I said, what can I do? What can I do to make it mine? Well, my last name has always been funny in school, because teachers could never pronounce it. They would say Dyze In House, Dyzenis. I don't know where Dyze In Hour came from. Dyze In House? So, I would raise my hand and I would say Dyze In House. And when they asked, like, for a reference to that, I would say, like, he dies in his house. And everyone would laugh. So the first day of school, every day, I was comedian, you know? Like, he dies in his house. That's the only way to describe how to pronounce my last name. So then it came to me. Dyze In Your House. You know? It works. And it works for everything. Because Dyze In Your House is the podcast. I got Spotify playlist. Dyze In Your Ears. I was live streaming, Facebook live streaming at the concert the other night at Third Eye Blind. Dyze In Your Concert. You know what? I mean, it goes anywhere. And I could take the old WWF In Your House pay-per-view logo and I could, you know, edit it into, you know, with the word Dyze up top. Dyze In Your House. You know, like, really good. I'm really proud that I was able to create something like that. So, I mean, so the future of Least Coast Radio is me just adding more podcasts because I have no one to talk to. I didn't want to lead with this. I didn't want to lead with the sad part, you know? Because if you lead with the sad part, then people start reaching out to you. People start thinking that you want help. And I don't want help. I just want to explain. And yeah, I turned the background music down because this is a little serious. Yeah. Like, it's not only... I'm not into politics. I know that sounds crazy. I'm not into politics. Is not something that I'm into. Resistance is something that is vital. Okay? We can't let... Listen, love your country, hate your government. You cannot sit back and let this stuff... Listen, if the Republicans in charge just wanted to cut taxes, you know, and do Republican things, that would be fine. But the tax cuts cut way too deep. They gave way too much to big corporations. They jacked up an economy that didn't need to be on steroids. This is dangerous. Banning people from countries, that's dangerous. The divisiveness in this country, that's dangerous. Calling white supremacists good people, beyond dangerous and stupid. The enabling of white supremacists, the backlash against Barack Obama because he was only because he was black. Like, half of America hates Obama and doesn't know one policy he enacted. They just don't like him because he's black. And that's so this extra racism that we're getting in 2016 is really a reaction. It's a reaction to what these people have been feeling, you know? And the people that elected Obama, the coalition, they didn't really feel like that towards Hillary. And it is what it is. But I'm not, I mean, I have no intentions on, you know, like, I always wanted to be a sportscaster. And then I always wanted to be like a concert, like a Matt Pinfield. I always wanted to be Mike Francesa. Then I always wanted to be Matt Pinfield. I do not want to be Matt Lauer. I do not want to be Rush Limbaugh. I don't want to be Hugh Hewitt or any. I don't want to be that. I don't want to be Howard Stern. Not Howard Stern. He's not political. But like I don't want to be Don Imus. I use the podcast because I don't have anyone to talk to. I have no one to talk to in this place. I turn around and I turn left and I turn right and I try to talk about things I want to talk about, important things. And yeah, sometimes it's, you know, our democracy, you know, the murder of our democracy. Sometimes it is. And people are always, before you're even done with the sentence, these people are already jumping onto topics that they wanted to talk about, ignoring your issues, not caring about your issues, and moving on to generalizing other things that I couldn't possibly care about. Now, that's fine. Not everyone needs to have the same conversational topics. But like, you know, the closest normal person in my life, in my everyday life, is my dad. And when I went to my dad and I said, you know, I was asking him I asked my dad where he gets his news. Because I thought he was, like, I thought at work, like, the news is on and he only gets it from, you know, people walking by buying the Post and yelling things at the television. But, you know, he was like, you know, I was asking him, you know, you should watch Maddow, this and that. And he's walking downstairs, he's like, you know, you're giving me a headache with all this. And he and I get it. People are sick of hearing me, you know, talk about it, but I'm sorry. I don't have anyone to talk to. No one cares about the things I care about. What I care about is anyone gonna wake up and realize that this shit ain't normal? No, but seriously, I get it that all presidents suck, but when was the last... I want to go back to a time where somebody said, did you hear what the president said? And I say, no. Are you kidding me? Yes, that's a Michael Che joke from Weekend Update. Nobody wants to hear it from me. I start talking, people change subjects. I mean, downstairs in my house, I understand why that happens because, people's minds aren't all there. But sometimes I get delusional. Sometimes people ask me what's the matter, and I actually tell them the truth. And then 5 minutes later, when we're having a discussion about macaroni and cheese, I want to start cutting myself. Not actually cutting myself, please. This is not a sound for an alarm. Just explain to you. The main basis of Least Coast Radio is for someone like me to have someone to talk to be able to talk about things that matter to me, things that I find important. Now, yeah, I still talk about music. Eminem's album, I always got new Dream Wife. I always got new music at the top. I'm continuously making a playlist monthly. Like, just because I'm talking about politics doesn't mean that, you need to turn this off. It's still me. I'm still mixing in, some humor in there, and my voice is still, people say they like my voice, whatever. I don't know. I don't have anyone to talk to. I don't have any real life friends. I don't have any real life friends who are my friends to benefit me and not to benefit them. Anyone who's in my life is in my life because they need me for something. And I do understand that to an extent that's the way the world works. And yeah, no, I don't want to open up a thing of chocolate ice cream and, with 2 spoons and talk about my problems. I don't want to do that. I want people to wake up. I'm a loner type guy, Like I would prefer to keep my head down and walk. If I'm talking, there's a reason. If I've gotten over my anxiety enough to start a conversation with somebody about something important, then I'd appreciate it if somebody would pay attention. And that's what this is for. This is a weekly record. A weekly record of Jay Porks, Jay Dyze In House, Dyze In Your House. It's a weekly record. Every time I press record, just remember, me pressing record is like, click. Hey guys, I'm back and I have no one to talk to. Hey guys, I'm back. I have no friends. Because people don't care about me. And yeah, you heard a text go off. That's my mom downstairs. She's asking me when I'm getting her pot. If you want me to be honest about what it is. But seriously. And I'm not saying reach out to me and talk to me. I'm not saying that. I'm just explaining what it is. Least Coast Radio. For the least heard voices on the least coast of the country. So in the future, much like this, we're going to have podcasts that sometimes come to you on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. It's always going to be Friday at or around 6 o'clock on the podcast app. But I figured I have time off. I'll give you a little explanation as to what I'm doing here. And maybe you'll find it in your heart to tell some friends about it. Share it on Facebook. And I don't even, maybe people, if you know like-minded people like me, maybe link us up. Because maybe there'll be somebody who wants to talk to me about this. About anything that matters to my life. Jay Porks, Dyze In Your House.